Right.
There was, yeah, no, I wrote and that moment is, as we've talked about, that moment sticks out to me as like, it's a seminal moment for almost every human being on this planet that's, ever ridden a bike. Because once, I remember the moment my father let go without the training wheels or anything, and I'm riding on my own, and that feeling, there just was nothing. Even driving a car wasn't like that, And
right.
I was older. I was 11. Let me imagine a 5 or 6 or 7 year old,
right.
riding a bike. It expands your world. At that age, when you're young and you ride a bike, it's a seminal moment. And
welcome to the Rad Movie Podcast. I'm your host, Tony Donaldson, and a super fan of the movie, probably like you. In this podcast, I will be interviewing the cast of the film, some of the writers, and some notable fans. You can watch this podcast as a video podcast on YouTube or listen to it anywhere you listen to podcasts. Please consider liking and subscribing and share this with your rad fan friends. In this episode, I talked to the man who wrote Rad, Sam Bernard. We talk about his Hollywood upbringing, how Jimmy Walker tried to get him laid, how a bicycle changed his life, and everything that led up to writing and making the movie Rad, including how they convinced Hal Needham to direct the film. He even has a special message for fans at the end. If you want to know really deep trivia about your favorite movie, this is a great episode to listen all the way through. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Sam Bernard.
hello.
Hey, Sam, how are you?
All right, Tony. How are you?
Good, man. Just working on getting new episodes out, and it's awesome to be able to get you on here.
Oh, it's an honor.
Well, we could be doing it in the same room. Just for those of you who don't know, which is most of the listeners, Sam lives about a mile from me.
Yeah,
so we're neighbors here in Santa Monica.
Yeah, it's good to have a friend that lives close by.
Yeah. So let's start this off, since it's the first time I'm interviewing for the podcast. Start from the beginning. Where were you born? Where did you grow up?
Well, okay. I was born in I can't remember the hospital, but in New York City, and
all right.
Lived there till I was about 11. When my father was an actor, and he was a Broadway actor, but then he started to get movie parts, and so we moved out here when I was about 11.
That's a pretty cool story, and it ties into you getting into it, I'm guessing.
In a lot of ways, not in the beginning, but in a lot of ways, yes. And it was also my mother. I mean, it was a crazy time, because my mother was actually an elected official in New York City.
Okay.
They're like called district leaders. They're like council people. And she had to resign, and I know it was a big problem, because my father was, he came out, he did movies like Judgment at Nuremberg and Murder Incorporated and Ice Station Zebra, and so things were going well for him here, and so we stayed.
All right. Where did you live in L.A.?
When we first moved here, we lived at the Montecito Hotel, on Franklin. You can't
okay.
miss it.
Hollywood proper.
Yes, right there. It's like a hotel apartment type living, and then we moved to a duplex in Beverly Hills.
Okay.
And then to a house. Well, it was a friend of my dad. Was actually Sergeant Carter from Gomer Pyle.
No way.
Yes, They were very close friends, and it's funny because there's a lot. Talking about my father is much more interesting because he said he had such a crazy career with all these people, and you know, and I can, if you want, I'll tell you one of my favorite stories, which I don't talk about it because it's, it could sound like bullshit, but
Right.
Anyway, we moved to this house on Weatherly Drive in Beverly Hills, which ended me up in Beverly Hills High School, which had a lot to do with my career, and I'll tell you that after this quick story, which is I actually told someone recently, and it just sounds so bizarre. So my father, also, he became the executive director of the Lee Strasberg Institute, which was
wow.
yeah, he ran it. There were two. There was one in Hollywood and there was one in New York, and Lee's wife ran the one in New York and my dad ran the one here. Anyway, it's on Hollywood. It was on Hollywood. We're talking the late 70s right now for this story. It was the late 70s, and my father and I was working. It was my mother got me a job over for Norman Lear. So I was, right out of high school.
Okay.
I never went to college.
Wow.
I was gonna just do this job for the summer, but then I said no. I want to. He had this amazing company going on. We had 5 shows, All in the Family, All's Fair, The Maud, The Good Times, The Jeffersons, and Sanford and Son. Anyway, they were, So I was around that. So one day my father gets hold of me somehow. I don't know how, because I don't ever remember talking to him, until I had cell phones, But he says, I want you to come have lunch with me. And where I worked in the studios where I was in Hollywood. It was actually at the KTTV. That's where Norman.
Okay.
That's where Norman had his office. So whatever. I mean, I'm 18 years old, stoned probably, and but very busy because you're coming. I want you to come meet me for lunch at Diamond Jim's. There was this place called Diamond Jim Brady's. It was a Hollywood haunt, not far from Musso and Frank, and but it was where all the people went. So I walk. I go there like I'm an obnoxious, arrogant 18-year-old, right? And they're sitting at a table is my father with this big, huge, fat guy wearing a safari hat, okay. And I see them. I go in. My dad says, "Sit down." And he goes, "Well, are you going to say hello?" He points to the guy. And I go, "Hi." He goes, "You know who that is, right?" And I said, "No." He goes, "Well, it was Marlon. It was Marlon Brando."
Whoa.
Well, my father and he studied together at the Stella Adler. That was the funny thing, is that Stella Adler and Lee Strasberg were the big competitors, and my father was never a Strasberg. He was a Stella Adler. I'm sure you've heard the name.
Yes.
I mean, she's, and they were, they became very good friends. So he goes, "That's Marlon Brando." He goes, "Don't you know who that is?" And I went, "No."
Wow.
Sitting there with the guy, right? I don't know. It didn't strike me at all, And Marlon Brando said to me, "When you were 3 months old, I held you like this, as if you were a little baby." Yeah, I mean, they had lost. I mean, Marlon went off on his craziness. It was about the time when he went off with his ayahuasca. Who knows what he was doing? But anyway, it was
right.
That was a touch of. It was a great time. And one day, my job was to drive Norman to the office. He would always be sitting there working on scripts, and he always had a driver, and then when you're there, you're sort of his gopher, and so his secretary JD, his sister, it was very family. I mean, Norman, that's the kind of man he was. He was an amazing guy. Said, Norman's having a guest for lunch, and you need to go down and meet him at the doors. And I asked who it was, and they told me, and I went downstairs to meet Orson Welles at the door and lead him up the stairs. They were having lunch. He was another big fat motherfucker.
Right.
But, I mean, Jesus Christ. Or him I recognized. I was thinking, I wonder if because it was around the same time, I was thinking, I wonder if you if I had said, well, I recognize Orson Welles, but not you, it was just,
wow.
It was just like, it was a big joke, for years with my dad. Anyway, so I was going to go to City College in Santa Monica, but at the end of the summer, I mean, Norman changed his drivers. They were rotating because he says, well, okay, it's time for you to go into production. So I became a production assistant on one of the shows, which was Good Times. And
that must have been great.
Yeah, made great friends with Jimmy Walker. He was one of the greatest guys I ever. He treated you like a peer. And I remember, and I'm 19, driving my car, and I remember having. I told Jimmy, I have a date with this really hot chick, and he lived right up the street from us. He lived on Burton Way, and he goes, and he had this baby blue 450 SL. I mean, those were the cars in the day, right? I mean, if you were in Hollywood and you were, and it was baby blue, was beautiful.
So this is the one with the pagoda roof.
Yes.
That SL? I love that car. My dad was a fan of that car, too.
Yeah, but very, very popular. And this is how he was. He says, he threw me his keys, says, take her in my car. For sure you'll get laid.
So cool. That's awesome.
and then he wanted me to go on the road with him while he did his... He went on the road because he was a stand-up comic, and that's how Jimmy made, and I just, he said, I want you to be the road manager. He goes, what do I have to do? He goes, everything. And I said, I'm too lazy. I wanted to stay working there anyway, and from there, I'm trying to think of we started meeting people, and then met a guy, said, who had just gotten a job, like as a production manager or something. He was a production assistant for Miloš Forman on Hair, and they were in post-production.
Okay.
And I went and worked with Miloš Forman for about a year. And my favorite Miloš Forman story was, he was, he was a character. It would be like, he had this he had this Czechoslovakian slave girl, right? That was his assistant, and I remember him saying, Miloš, we're not working Saturday. When we're not working Thursday or Friday, it's Thanksgiving. He looks at us, he has a thick accent, and he says, we had that fucking Thanksgiving last year. Why you have it again another year?
That's pretty funny.
Yeah. What's that? So,
right.
if you want me to keep going, I will. I mean, but if you have
let's backpedal, pun intended.
Okay.
When was the first time you rode a bike?
First time I rode a bike was when we moved to Hollywood, and I was older, because we lived in the Upper West Side, New York, and we weren't really allowed to go out. I mean,
Right.
There was, I rode and that moment is, as we've talked about, that moment sticks out to me as like, it's a seminal moment for almost every human being on this planet that's, ever ridden a bike. Because once, I remember the moment my father let go without the training wheels or anything, and I'm riding on my own, and that feeling, there just was nothing. Even driving a car wasn't like that, And
Right.
I was older. I was 11. I imagine a 5 or 6 or 7-year-old,
Right.
riding a bike. It expands your world. At that age, when you're young and you ride a bike, it's a seminal moment,
And this is probably why you wrote those lines in the movie.
Well, afterwards, maybe. Yeah, the whole idea really was about. I loved my bike, and I love it. I didn't have a BMX. It wasn't BMX or anything. It was, we were talking in the.
Do you remember what it was, though?
It was red. That's what I remember. It wasn't. It was probably a Schwinn. I don't. But eventually, I got, as we've talked about, the Stingray. That's the bike.
The Holy Grail.
The Holy Grail, the Stingray. With the elephant. What did you tell me? The seat was called what?
Oh, banana seat and the high-rise handlebars.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I love that. And me and my friends, they were building Century City at the time. So this is
Oh, wow.
This is prior to the other story. So this is like 74, some and they had the parking structures, and it was so awesome. We would to go 6 stories up in a parking structure and then ride down like maniacs.
Yep.
It was great. That was our thing, and
Well,
getting chased,
yeah.
And we got chased by the police and ditched them and everything.
That's awesome. That's like a rite of passage, I think, for most kids. And growing up in the Midwest, we rode in parking structures in the winter all the time.
Yeah.
The only place that's clear to ride.
This wasn't new, but it was under construction. That was right, and we could only go at night. We'd have to go at night, but it was lit up, and so we could do that, those were the memories of the bicycles. Rad wasn't necessarily the most personal thing, but from okay, so that's where I grew up. I'll let you ask the questions.
Well, well, then let's fast forward to what was the genesis of Rad? Where did the idea come from? Yeah.
The idea was this. I had success early. Sold 2 screenplays. One called 315, which was made into a movie. Another one was called Baby Bucks, which was about the times that me and 2 friends ran blackjack casinos playing Beverly Hills Kids. We actually set up tables and and I wrote a script about that and sold it to Warner Brothers, and it was and there was a lot going on at that time, and I had a lot of options. But I was also very close with Robert Levy, and I thought, and I had met Hal Needham, and I thought, there's only one Hal Needham. I mean,
Right.
It's really, truly one of the most unique individuals you'll ever meet, and I had a great relationship with him. And I was at the beach visiting a friend. I don't remember exactly what I was doing, and I've been trying to think of it, and I think maybe I was even buying something I shouldn't have been buying, but I was, I guess I'm like 25 at this time, and I'm getting on Olympic Boulevard from the beach, and at Memorial Park, Bill Allen tells it differently, but Bill's anyway.
Bill has a different memory.
Yeah. Well, Bill thinks. Bill says, "Oh, I was on the beach when I saw it." That's not exactly how it happened. It was Memorial Park, which where that is.
14th and Olympic.
Yep, 14th and Olympic. I see kids fucking flying on bicycles. I'm like, what the fuck is that, right? I go,
right.
And I go in and I park. Now I'm 25. I think I'm young and cool and hip, and these kids were 13, 12, 10. I don't know. They had their ramps, and they didn't really want to talk to me about it. Man, what are you guys doing? And they're like, they're ignoring me. There's music.
Right.
There's a ghetto blaster. There's but I'm just like watching this, and I'm going, this is fucking amazing, right? What is it? But they're not. They don't tell me. So I get back in my car and I drive over to which was then the most prestigious bicycle store in Beverly Hills, called Hans Ort, and
okay,
and that's something you would love.
Oh, I'm sure.
I mean, it was a place. It was a place. It's like that's where you want to get your bicycle, because if it had Hans Ort printed on it, on the Schwinn, or even that was the place. So I go there, and they also had all kinds of accoutrement there, and magazines. So I asked the guy, I stop and I ask the guy, and I say, what are these guys? I tell him the story that happened, and I go, I don't know what the fuck that was. He reaches over, grabs the magazine and throws it in front of me, and it's either BMX Action or BMX Plus. Which one? You tell me, which would have been in 70... In 80, in 85,
it could have been either one, because both of them were very strong at the time.
Right.
I would put a little more money on Action,
maybe
just because on the bike
remember.
shop side, I think it was more.
Anyway, that was his answer. I buy the magazine. At that time, I'm actually renting. Robert had a guest house up in Sunset Plaza, and I go.
Nice.
And yeah. Smoking the Bandit did him well. And I said to him, look at this, and I'm going, this is you got to call Hal Needham tomorrow and say, this is his next movie, because this thing is good. Did a little research. This thing is going to be huge. Like the next week, right. he and I went in and met Hal, and he basically said, I don't know if I could do my imitation of him. And he goes, well, you know me, He goes, I like fast cars and blowing shit up. I don't know anything about bicycles. That's what he said. It just so happened that weekend, Martin was going to be at the Griffith Park. Equestrian center. Then they were doing. I don't know. I was sick as a dog. I remember being there. I remember being sick, and I went. But it was Martin, and probably Eddie was there, and but Martin was kind of the star. I mean, he could do. He was pretty fearless, and I remember standing there. There's the three of us, And Hal's watching, and I'm looking at, I'm glancing at Hal, right? We don't have a script or anything, nothing yet.
Right.
And finally, he turns to me and catches my eyes and nods his head. And I said, "Oh my God, we got a movie here. I don't know what it is, but we got a movie." Because at that point, Hal was one of the biggest directors in town. I'm saying, how are we going to get this fucking guy? It's like a dream, for Hal Needham to, that name meant a lot.
Well, and fresh off of Smokey and the Bandit and Cannonball Run, to take that type of a film. I mean, a low budget.
Right. And he was getting a lot of offers to do a lot of television and stuff, and there was some other stuff. The movie that meant most to him was his story. It's called Hooper, and if you want to know about Hal, it tanked, but this is really.
I saw it in the theater.
You saw it in the theater, yeah. So,
yes, I did.
And his buddy Bert. I mean, they were best buddies, and.
Right.
So we meet up again, the next week. And we say, so what are we going to do with this? And him and Robert just thought, well, we make it so this kid's in juvenile hall, and he gets hold of his bicycle and he gets away from the cops, and then, he's chased all over the city. I'm saying, I'm not connecting with this, too much. And there was another producer there named Tom Mount, who had been president of Universal, and I could sort of tell. And anyway, we wrote that up, and it wasn't any good, And then we. And then I sat there and I just thought, what about just being about a bike race? Call Rocky on a bike. A paperboy becomes the the most celebrated champion in bicycles. And you remember it's 85, so that's 84. So that and that really gave as much frame as you could want. I mean, that's, you can tell that story. A paperboy becomes a world champion, and you see it in his own hometown. And,
How long did it take you to write that script?
Well, okay. It's fun, I don't know. I'm sure I've told you this, but it's the first.
That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, the very first draft took 9 days to write without Hell Track, because I didn't know how to write Hell Track. Hal
wasn't it just on the printed page? It just said The Race.
Yeah. It wasn't called Hell Track yet. We didn't know what it was. It was called Balls Out.
What a great working title.
Yeah, and they've made a movie since called Balls Out. Someone else, anyway.
Well, but true to that, at least Sergeant Smith actually said it.
Well,
once.
Well, I made sure that was going to get in there one way or another. And in the end, Rad lives. People still use the word. And people still.
Well, I mean, if we're especially my age, I grew up with that word.
Yeah.
I mean, I still to this day use it way too much.
I try not to. and Hal got hooked up with Jack Schwartzman, who was married to Talia Shire, and Jack had done Never Say Never Again. He was a big producer. He had been president of Lorimar, which was a very big company at the time, and he had done Being There, which was an Academy Award movie, with where the guy walks on water at the end. I mean, that's the scene I remember the most. And Jack had financing to do 2 movies, and he was trying to get his brother-in-law Francis Ford Coppola to do one of them, and then the other one was a thing called Hyper Sapien, which Michael Wadley of Woodstock fame, he's the guy who filmed the original Woodstock movie.
Oh wow!
And he had a certain amount of money, and I guess the investors came to him and they said, "Well, it's too risky. We'll give you the same money, but we want a third movie." Now, those movies they were budgeted at $12 million, $12 to $15 million, and this is including pianists. How do you find a movie? You're not going to put a big star in it. I mean, the only big star at the time that could have been was C. Thomas Howell, who was a stunt. He was part of a stunt family, and but he wasn't going to do it. We didn't have the money to pay him, and
What did he want for it?
I don't remember what he wanted for it, but I mean, the budget of the movie was $3 million.
Total, including production,
everything,
actors, everything.
Everything
okay.
Except and then how do I phrase it without sounding too like in the business? It was. Since Jack was also paying for distribution, there was also a distribution charge, but it was called something else that would infringe on the budget. So anyway, it was a way to get it made. We had another offer, and it was like a couple of business guys. It was Herb Jaffe and someone else, and then at some point, Talia and Jack invited us up to their house in Bel Air, and Jack was he had been a very, very successful lawyer, and he was he was again another character, and you saw the thing that you read about what a cab driver says, right? And the thing he said we all went up to Calgary and started building the track and figuring out where we were going to shoot everything, and and Jack didn't come for a while, and when he got off and when he finally got to the hotel, I said, "Hey Jack, how's it going?" He goes, "Well, I asked the cab driver," I said, well, how's the weather here? And he says, he said, there's only two kind of people that ask that question about the weather in Calgary: assholes and movie producers. Squealing Jack. That's what the guy said, and it's in that paper I sent you.
Okay.
It's in there. And had a blast making the movie, because Hal likes to have fun, and and in dealing with kids, and he really got into it. I mean, he really got into the, but he didn't like. So the opening sequence, which everyone loves, was shot by John Schwartzman, and
right.
What's that?
I was just going to say, I know this, and hopefully the audience knows this, but this was sort of his first project that he worked on.
Well,
I
mean, he had some. Yeah, I mean, the first big thing he ever worked on. I don't, I mean, John was maybe my age. I don't know. We became really friendly, but this really was his. But I think he was like, hooked into cameras for years, and I mean, he's amazing,
and then he went on to be the cinematographer for Seabiscuit and Armageddon and all these blockbuster films.
Oh yeah, yes, he's a giant. He was the, I just rewatched. I hadn't seen it because in years. Just rewatched The Rock, and with Nicolas Cage, and who was cousins with him, and
right.
And John shot that too. So so. I mean, you can tell. I mean, obviously a very different style of filmmaking from the opening and the closing than what the movie was like. Hal was thinking about. His thinking was was about the actions and the reactions and let's say if John had directed the film, it would have been so you could.
Oh my God!
Yeah, I'm just saying that they had different ways, and Hal didn't have an ego about it. He goes, "This is great shit. Let's use it as the opening of the movie." It was,
Very smart.
It was just to get, we sent them out there with some, on some foggy, in I think it's Santa Monica.
I think it was more like Hermosa-ish.
Was it? Maybe.
So yeah, because that's where all those guys rode on the Strand. Yeah, Hal had such a gift for knowing where the action was going to happen and putting cameras there.
Yeah, and to tell listen, Hal talked like a hick, but he was extremely smart and understood that what he's filming had to have an emotional connection. Which is what I'm thinking. John probably wasn't mature enough to have done that, he shot beautifully,
Yeah.
But anyway, see, it would have been a different thing. It was never an issue,
Right.
And we had a great time and went and took over Calgary. I mean, we really took over Calgary, made the movie, and was very disappointed the day it was released because. We took it to Bakersfield and to Las Vegas and did previews, and all the audience reaction cards were positive. It's like it's like the thing is, well, how could that movie must have made a lot of money? It's like number. It's I don't know, on Rotten Tomatoes it's got some really high score.
Well, Rotten Tomatoes at one point it had the biggest disparity of any film on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
It was absolutely 100% for the fans and absolutely 0% for the critics.
Right. Absolutely, and I got bashed. It was great.
I mean, the joke's on them because it's a cult classic.
No, listen, it was, I had no idea what it was going to be. Even after writing the script, then you took. Then Hal would say to me, you think you got a hard job, well, you see what I got to do. You just go home and you smoke some of that funny stuff, and then and you write these scenes down. And he goes, now I gotta make this all work.
Well, it was crazy. So I went with 4 of my friends. The night it came out, it was like a Friday night, and we sat in the theater with, I think there were 4 other people. So there was 9 people in the theater the first night. And I went back a couple of days later to see it. And this is in Springfield, Illinois. This is a small town. Went back to see it a couple of days later. Gone.
Yeah.
It just tanked at the box office. But when it came out on video...
Well. Yeah, well, video. I mean, they ran out. I mean, there was.
Oh, I would go to the video store like every couple of nights, and if it was available, I would rent it, and I rented it so many times. I would rent other stuff, obviously, but Rad was something that I wanted to see every single time.
I actually have an original VHS copy of it.
Right. Oh, do you? I think I might in my collection.
Yeah. I'm not. I'd have to go through all the stuff to get it, but maybe next time.
Okay. Well, I have the Laserdisc.
Yeah, I have the Laserdisc. and
signed by much of the cast, including Hal.
Yeah.
So,
and
I've got yours on there, don't I?
Probably. I don't know.
I've got, who else do I have? Oh, I have Jeffrey's.
Jeffrey and I mean, there was so, I mean, the funny thing is, like Eddie sort of became like the vanguard of it,
Yeah. Well, it's him and like Jeremy does so much for it too.
Jeremy,
and I think he's working. Jeremy Mosier.
Oh yeah. He moved back here. He moved back to Southern.
Did he move back to L.A.?
Yeah, I sent him. I sent him the same thing I sent you, and he said,
"Okay."
Yeah, he's in Huntington Beach.
Oh, I got to reach out to him because I think he's working with Kurt and some other people in Cochrane for the 40th.
Is he?
Next year.
We got to go.
I'm planning on it.
Okay.
So maybe we can go together.
Yeah, or we do. Yeah, we always go to those things together. So.
Yep.
Yeah, it was just a blast. Making the movie and a huge disappointment, obviously, and something, my career went on. It was,
Right.
It didn't get me any work, but I was still working and stuff. But Rad follows me everywhere, and
Well, I mean, who had any idea it would become what it has become?
Yeah.
I mean, it's so important to so many people, and there's just two types of people in this world. There's people who have never heard of Rad,
right,
and there's people that absolutely love the movie.
Right.
So, and the dads are showing their kids now, and bringing them up to be able to watch it as well.
Right. Yeah. No. Listen. I went to the dog park a couple of weeks ago, and saw some guy, and he had a Rad Racing T-shirt on.
No way.
Yeah. And I said to him, I wrote that movie. He goes, really? And he goes, wow, it's a great movie. He goes, and he was like in his probably 40s or something. And he said,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't ever see it as a kid, but about 10 years ago, we got I guess he watched it with his son or something like that. I can't remember exactly. But yeah, he had the Red Rad Racing shirt on. Because it's such a great movie. It's like so much fun, and
It's I have run into the craziest. This guy Chaddington. I was filming at his house, a thing for Intel, and I was setting up the lights and stuff to interview a friend of his in the house, and somehow the movie came up. He was never into BMX, but he pulls out his phone and he goes, "You mean this movie?" And he has the entire movie on his phone.
Yeah.
So, and he watches it like once a week, and that was fantastic. And actually, the funny thing is that was somewhere around the time that we recorded the behind-the-scenes audio.
Yeah.
And so I took the very first edit of that to his house and had him watch it just to see his reaction.
Yeah.
And it went over well.
Yeah, I'll bet. That was great. That was a lot of fun.
Do you realize that we recorded that in 2013? 12 years ago.
Yeah.
So, and it came out in 2014.
Yeah. I remember when it came out. I remember the check.
Oh. Yeah, that was more of a labor of love.
Of course. No, it was really fun.
Well, it was fun getting all of you guys together in Eddie's living room. I mean, even Bart. It was just so cool that Bart just happened to be in the right place at the right time to come out and do that. I tried to get Hal, but he was afraid he'd make Talia mad by doing something like that, and I was like,
really?
Okay. Yeah, it was. I spoke to him via email, and he just wrote back and said he worried that it would damage his relationship with Talia for some reason. So I had no idea why.
I mean, because my relationship with Talia, I think at that time was still pretty good. Well, no, maybe not. I don't know. I guess it really kind of ended it. I mean, I've had dinner with her a few times in the past couple of years, but look, the whole thing got tied up. It unfortunately, because now when you think about it, and why people, and I've said this before, why where's it been? Why has it been so like? And you see all the shit on the web and social media saying, all blaming it on Talia. Well, that's not the case, and
right.
It's very absurd to think why would the people who profit most from it, who would profit most for it, not want to show it. And there was she's embarrassed her for performance. It's all bullshit,
right.
What it was see, those three movies were tied together financially. Now, Rad came out in theaters. Lionheart, which was one of the other movies he did, that we did up there, it didn't even get a theatrical release, nor did Hyper Sapien, and those were the two expensive things. So those rights were owned by a bank, and and that's why it sat there for so long, and we couldn't get a release, it's been a long and winding road.
Yeah, well, I mean, for the longest time, there was like a bootleg DVD.
Oh, yeah.
That all the fans had, and that actually got people into trouble. Was it you telling me the story, or it might have been Eddie or Bill? I guess at the Arm & Hammer, at the 25th anniversary at the Arm & Hammer Museum, where they were showing it on the big screen, which would be the second time I ever saw it on the big screen, Talia brought her own personal 35 millimeter print.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you
project.
the story because I'm
Go ahead, please.
Because
you know it better than I do.
Because I went, finally talked her into it. We were saying, listen, they want to show this here and this, but me and one of our other sons, Matt, we finally talked her into it, and and there was a print out of the lab and way out in the valley. We were looking for a print that we because you store them, they have to be stored, and you know how you got to store film.
Yeah.
And
yep.
I went out and I got it. I had the leasing papers, and I got it. And we said, Talia and I said, well, we need to watch it before we decide. We don't know what shape it's in, right? And so
right.
It was just an audience of two about a week before, and the person who was in charge of it came up to us and said, listen, would it be okay, because we're going to have an overflow here, would it be okay if we took this, this DVD and showed it to the people? And I'm like, I know about it. We've told Talia about it, and she
right.
threw a shit fit. And that was really kind of the breakage of the road, because she turned to me and said, Are you mad? Don't you want to just get a lawyer? I said, but Talia, if we release the real thing, no one cares about this. That's what people want. And she, she felt that I was betraying her, but I was right. No one would have cared about some knockoff, even though
like a bootleg,
bootleg copy, and we had a big shouting argument. I said, Talia, me and all your sons have been, telling you, let's put the movie out on DVD. We had offers from we had an offer from MGM. And they wanted, to pay an obscene amount of money, and she was frightened to it. Well, she was. I'll be honestly, her emotional state. It took her a long time to recover from the. Jack died only about 6 years after Rad, and it was sudden, and it was like she was left holding all this stuff, and of this very savvy, involved lawyer, businessman, executive producer. No one in their right mind thought he could ever pull off "Never Say Never Again," which is a James Bond thing that
Right.
was and he got sued, and but he did have the rights, but they sued anyway, and so it was a rough period, but but back in that day, so that would have been what, 2011 or 12.
For
The Arm and Hammer.
the 25th?
Yeah, the Arm and Hammer.
That was 2011.
2011. Okay, yeah. So 2011, and I'm like, no. I go. I think I said to her, no, I'm pissed off in Utah because we need to put this out there, and we can render every bootleg DVD worthless.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't know, and she didn't know. At one point, she said, "Okay, you can run with it," and we were going to do a sequel, and there was an executive, I guess, at Warner Brothers who came up with some piece of paper that Jack had signed, giving them the rights, which wouldn't have necessarily, let's say, had there been a lawsuit, wouldn't have necessarily held up. But there was just so many stumbling blocks, in the later years. Once, obviously in the first 5 years, no one thought about the movie, except, it was, until they started running out of
VHS copies.
Yeah, VHS copies, and they were being sold for, hundreds of thousands of dollars on eBay, and so. But yeah, listen, it came out that it did. I think when they finally set it out, I didn't agree with everything they did, but they, it's there. Are they cooperating with you? With Jeremy? With Jeremy?
With who?
With Jeremy. Yeah.
Oh, we get along really well.
I know you
I just haven't talked to him in a while.
I'm talking about the Schwartzmans. I don't know, because I'm not.
I had no interaction at all. Well, I met Talia on the set of a short film that Jason Schwartzman was in, because he was the star of this short film that a friend of mine directed, called Odessa or Bust.
Okay.
It's a pretty funny thing. There are some amazing cameos. The main character is played by both Jason Schwartzman and Red Buttons.
Oh, wow.
So if you can make that stretch.
Yeah, wow. So that was that's a nice stroll down memory lane. And, the thing I say is, people are like, oh, Rad, and look, it's an honor, and it's the fans that keep it alive, and the fans.
Agreed.
The fans of this movie are rabid.
Very much so.
And,
I'm one of them.
I'm forever grateful.
Very cool. Anyway, let's wrap this up. Sam, thank you very much for coming on. And yeah, well, we'll definitely do it again.
Okay. All right, Tony. Thanks,
Sam.
All right.
You got it. Hey, thanks for making it all the way to the end of this episode. Please hit that like and subscribe button and check out our other episodes.